Hey everyone, so today we're going to be making some gratin potatoes. Or they scallop potatoes. We're going to get to that. I'm calling them gratin potatoes because it sounds cooler. But whatever you decide to call them, they taste great, so let's get going with this. Taking a look at the ingredients, we have 3 pounds of potatoes, 40 ounces or 5 cups heavy cream, 1 cup or 8 ounces of milk, 3 ounces of cheddar, 1 ounce Parmesan, 1/2 teaspoon each nutmeg and white pepper, 1/4 ounce chicken base, toasted Panko breadcrumbs, and kosher salt. A quick note on the potatoes, I'm using Yukon gold potatoes and I'm slicing them 1/8 of an inch thick on a mandolin slicer. You might have also noticed that I was using a cut resistant glove. I find that to be more effective than the attachment provided in the packaging. Moving over to the stovetop, combine the heavy cream, milk, chicken base, nutmeg, white pepper, and a fair amount of salt into a large enough pot to hold all of the ingredients. A pot that is both wide and tall is ideal for this. A wider pot will prevent the potatoes from breaking apart when stirring, and a taller pot will prevent any potential messes from spilling onto the stovetop. Once everything heats up and the chicken base has become dissolved, we can go ahead and add our potatoes. Give it a stir to get everything mixed together. I also added a few more pinches of salt while the camera wasn't rolling. And after a few minutes over medium to high heat, we've reached a simmer, and this is where a little game of potato gratin roulette begins. Continuing to cook them on the stovetop will reduce the overall cook time, but you will also risk breaking apart the potato slices. I usually simmer them for about 3 or 4 minutes and don't risk destroying the potatoes. So now we're ready to add the cheese. I've turned off the heat and I will add it a little bit at a time while stirring, which will prevent it from clumping up and better incorporated into the mixture. Okay, now that that's complete, we're ready to pan everything up and put it into the oven. I've lightly buttered a 9x9 baking pan, and I'm going to add the potatoes a little bit at a time. I've had this splatter onto the stovetop before, so it's not a bad idea to do it this way. Also, while you weren't looking, I added a bit more salt. It's a good idea to do this and give it a taste prior to placing it into the oven. This will be the last chance you have to do this and to adjust the seasoning to the proper level. It now needs to go into a preheated 375-degree oven for 30 minutes. And while it is in the oven, let's sort out some terminology. And let's start with the culinary dictionary and look up the term au gratin. There it is, a French term referring to a dish with a brown topping of breadcrumbs and/or grated cheese, also known as a gratiné. This explains the term onion soup gratiné that you see on menus at restaurants. Okay, now let's look up the term scallop, the non-seafood version of the word that is. There it is. To cook a food by layering it with cream or a sauce, usually topping it with breadcrumbs before, god damn it, it's one of those that's on 2 pages. Baking. Well, it's good to know that certainly would have been impossible to fit all of that onto 1 page. Okay, let's see what this book has to say on the topic. Potatoes en casserole are baked in combination with cream or a custard. Scalloped au gratin and dauphinoise potatoes are all good examples. Well, that didn't offer up a whole lot as far as separating the 2 terms, so let's try this book out. Scalloped potatoes and au gratin potatoes are examples of casseroled potatoes. So we still haven't fully cleared it up, so let's try one more book. Baking en casserole. Well-known examples include scalloped potatoes, which are baked in bechamel sauce, and potatoes au gratin, which are topped with cheese and baked. Okay, so there you have it. It's a little bit confusing, to be honest. The term scallop seems to refer to how they're baked, and the term au gratin seems to refer to how they're topped. But this does explain why the terms are used interchangeably. Also, when researching into this, I found out that the word potato comes from the American Indian word batata, and the term spud is a type of spade shovel used for digging potatoes. So how about that? Okay, getting back to it, after about 30 minutes the casserole should be done cooking. The top should be well browned and you should be able to insert a toothpick into it and have very little resistance from the potatoes, indicating that they are tender. We can go ahead and add our breadcrumb topping while it is still hot. This is the same breadcrumb topping I used in a macaroni and cheese video a few weeks back, and I'll include a link to that video in the description. I prefer to add the breadcrumb topping after baking because sometimes it doesn't brown evenly if added prior to baking. Also, the breadcrumbs can absorb into the mixture and become soggy. They are more likely to remain crispy if done this way. I made a few attempts to cut out a clean slice for the camera, but as you can see, it really didn't cooperate with me too well. But sometimes the world isn't perfect, and that's okay. Hopefully this photo does a good job of showing the potato layers. And if you can't tell, I had a lot of fun eating it. And I hope you do too.